Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Today, our group will present our first group assignment of IMR455, which is virtual visit. Our group decided to choose Boston Children's Hospital to do our virtual visit. We have 5 presenters on our today presentation, which are first, Aina Kamila binti Azmi, second, Nur Izzati Azwani binti Zazni, third, Nur Amalia Natasha binti Azman, fourth, Khairunisa Natra binti Hairun, and lastly, Nurul Najiha binti Hanbari. Next slide. The introduction of Boston Children's Hospital will be presented by me, Khairunisa Natra binti Hairun. So what is Boston Children's Hospital? As you can see from the picture, Boston Children's Hospital is a hospital for children that having disease so that they can be treated. As you can see from the logo, there is one center below the logo which is until every child is well. So every child that having disease, that having any type of rare or maybe common disease will be treated very well in this hospital. So where is this hospital located? So Boston Children's Hospital, the Children's Medical Center Corporation, is located in Boston, Massachusetts. This hospital is one of the top-ranked world-class care hospital organization. This hospital has more than 258 specialized clinical programs and also 40 clinic departments in the United States. U.S. News and World Report announced that Boston Children's Hospital is the #1 pediatric hospital in the nation. This hospital earned the #1 pediatric specialty in the country for 8 years in a row. You can see the achievement in the Boston Children's Hospital. Also in the U.S. News and World Report in website announced that Boston Children's Hospital earned 8 years in a row the top #1 pediatric specialties. Next, we will move on to the next slide. Okay, the CEO of Boston Children's Hospital. Who is the CEO of Boston Children's Hospital? So the president and the chief of the Boston Children's Hospital is Dr. Kelvin B. Churchwell. He is the new CEO after the retirement of CEO Sandra L. Fenwick on March 31. The CEO Sandra L. Fenwick, she announced that she retired as CEO of the Boston Children's Hospital, and thus Dr. Kelvin is now the new CEO until now. So who is Dr. Kelvin B. Churchwell? He is a graduate student from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Vanderbilt University Medical School. He also the person who served the hospital since 2013 as an executive vice president of Health Affairs and CEO. So this is the picture of the CEO of Boston Children's Hospital. I also provided the quote from the CEO of the Boston Children's Hospital. Dr. Kelvin B. Churchwell stated that the commitment and compassion with which we care for all children and families is matched only by the pioneering spirit of discovery and innovation that drives us to think differently, to find answers and to build a better tomorrow for children everywhere. This is stated by Dr. Kelvin B. Churchwell by himself in the Boston Children's Hospital website. Timeline of Boston Children's Hospital. This is the timeline of where Boston Children's Hospital was built until now. So, in 1869, the hospital was introduced by Dr. Francis and some graduates from Harvard Medical School. As you all know, Harvard Medical School produced a lot of famous doctors that contribute a lot of in our histories. Next, in 1933 until 1935, this is one of the history happens when Dr. James Gamble's research, made a fluid replacement therapy, where they saved many lives of infants that having dehydration by changing water into fluid replacement therapy, because water easily vaporized in atmosphere, so they changed the water into fluid. This era changes a lot since they save a lot of life of babies. This fluid replacement therapy makes Dr. James Gamble research become successful in saving life in Boston Children's Hospital. Next, 1941, the hospital moved to Longwood Avenue, which is the location of our today's location of Boston Children's Hospital. Next is the duration of 1947 until 1919, which there happens a lot in history in Boston Children's Hospital to entire world. So the first one is surgery, closing a congenital heart defect. This huge story in this hospital was by Dr. Robert Gross, who was the person that made the first surgery that successful in closing a congenital heart defect in 1947. The next one is treated leukemia patient. This one is by Dr. Sidney Farber. He treated a leukemia patient successfully without chemotherapy. And after he treated the leukemia patient, soon later on, the name of the therapy becomes chemotherapy. So Dr. Sidney Farber today was given a title of the father of modern chemotherapy. If you want to know about Dr. Sidney Farber, you can search in Wikipedia who he is and what he contributed in chemotherapy. Next is the Nobel Prize of Developer Vaccine for Poliovirus. There are three persons that they will rewarded with Nobel Prize, which are John Elmdale, Thomas Weller, and Dr. Frederick Robbins. They were awarded a Nobel Prize after leading to the development of the vaccine for the poliovirus. As then not just these three contributions towards Boston Children's Hospital that happens in this era, but there are a lot of happened during 1947 until 1990. For example, revolution of science niche of oncology and also scoliosis treatment without methadone. This happens during 1947 until 1990. A lot of doctor and nurse treated the patient that have a rare disease and also saved many lives. And that's after the era of 1990 until now, Boston Children's Hospital still treat children in their hospital. Now their name is still Boston Children's Hospital and they are number one ranked in pediatric specialty for 8 years in a row. That is all for timeline of Boston Children's Hospital. Next, I will give another presenter to present their slide. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Aina Kamilia binti Azmi. Today I will present my part on this assignment, which is list of activities. List of activities 1, which is acquisitions and collections. Acquisitions means, by according to the Webster New 20th Century Dictionary, is to gain, obtain, and get hold of. But in today's library context, it can be simply defined as to acquire chosen books, serials, and other sources via purchases, give, or exchange. The Boston Children's Hospital Archive housed thousands of papers, pictures, and artifacts that chronicle and illustrate the hospital histories. The bulk of the artifacts are held in specific collections according to their provenance, which is where they come from. There are two primary types of collection. There are archival collections and manuscript collections. Archival collections are collections of paper from a certain institution's department or working group. And it is typically include administrative records pertaining to the everyday activity of that location or group, while manuscript records, on the other hand, are collections of materials gathered by a person or family while working in a certain area for a specific period of time or throughout the course of their career. For the second one is appraisal and disposal. Archive appraisal is defined as the assessment of records to determine whether it is valuable for permanent preservation and what can be destroyed, while disposal means that it refers to the measure that done with regards to document once they are no longer needed or required in their office or institutions to conduct their ongoing activities. Hospitals will not remove unknown information from its database. They save backup data if something emergency happens, such as natural catastrophes, equipment breakdowns, or any other troubles. Boston Children's Hospitals also must keep medical records of their patients for at least 20 years following the patient's release or last treatment. If the patient requests a copy of their hospital records, the Boston Children's Hospital retention policy allowed to do so.
My name is Nur Amelia Natasha binti Azman. Now I'm going to talk about accessioning. Accessioning is the process of transfer the legal and physical custody of archival records from creating agency into archives institution or archival repository. Accessioning also will involve the task of documenting receipt and acceptance of records into archive custody. The Boston Children's Hospital's Archives was founded in 1993 with the goal of acquiring, preserving, and making historical materials accessible. These hospital archives collect documents and publications with long-term historical, legal, financial, administration, and research significance for the hospital. The articles of incorporation, bylaws, administrative files and minutes, financial records, correspondence, pictures, videos, slides, audio recordings, policy and procedures, patient logs, and yearly reports are all kept in the archives. They also keep track of the hospital's official publications as well as those of its department, service, labs, programs, centers, and other divisions. Next is the arrangement and description. The process of determining a suitable technique for arranging archive documents and producing relevant finding aids that categorize the archives for retrieval and usage is known as arrangement and descriptions. Finding aids, also known as finding guides, are publications designed to assist users, the archive's users, in locating resources on terms of interest. They provide the users a broad and thorough overview of what's in a certain collection. Finding aids provide general information about a collection, such as where it comes from, when and how it may be accessed, and any limitations on its usage. Each collection's finding aid includes an administrative or biographical note about the organization or person who developed or gathered the records, as well as a scope and content note about the items in the collection, their function and usage, and the categories of information provided. A series description provides the date, duration, quantity, and an explanation of the contents for each specific element of records when the collection is divided into smaller groups or series. Finally, an inventory lists all of the collection's boxes and folders.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Najiha binti Hambari and I will explain about the preservation and storage for the Boston Children's Hospital. Definition of preservation is the act of preventing something from being damaged or keeping something just like the existing condition is the existing condition. Okay. The meaning of storage is the process of saving the digital data in the data storage device using the computing technology. Plus, Boston Children's Hospital maintains their medical records at least for 20 years after the final treatment of the patient or after the patient discharge as required by law. The internal policies of Boston Children's Hospital have the safe retention and destruction for their patient information. Next, they have the Notice of Privacy Practices where it is explained about the medical information of the patient that may be used and disclosed and how the patient can access their medical information. The Notice of Privacy Practice explains how the Boston Children's Hospital is used and protects the Protected Health Information that stands for PHI. The patient information may be in the paper, electronic or digital record file that may contain genetic or biometric information, health information, audio or video recording, or even in the form of image. In the other words, Boston Children's Hospital is trying to make their customers understand about their right and the hospital responsibility by providing the notice. Next activity is Access and Reference Service. Reference service can refer to the services and facilities the archive provides when access to the material is approved and make the researcher able to find the information they want but must follow the standard or rules by the archival institution. The researcher can contact the institution through email, fax, letter, telephone, or in person. The archivist hospital is available for helping the person that does the research in the Boston Children's Hospital and assisting them using the various finding aids available and finding the material that related to the topic of the research. The researchers can do their research if they have made an appointment first, and before scheduling the visit, they should familiarize themselves with the hospital archive, regulation and policies. Plus, Boston Children's Hospital has a research administration that provides the research community at Boston Children's Hospital with service including lab resources and facilities. They provide administrative support to key research faculty community. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Izati Azwani binti Zasni, and I will continue the presentation of this group assignment. I will present the SWOT analysis section. This SWOT analysis includes strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. The strength of Boston Children's Hospital is Boston Children's Hospital prepare a program archive to preserve history and maintain its guiding principle. They also allow the general public to conduct research. In addition, Boston Children's Hospital encourage the public to support this archive program by donating funds. The weakness of Boston Children's Hospital is that anyone who wants to conduct research must make an appointment. Besides, inquiries made via phone call or email also take a week to 2 weeks for them to respond. Boston Children's Hospital Medical Library also does not have the latest annual report. Boston Children's Hospital has the opportunity to further expand the archive program. The Boston Children's Hospital Medical Library needs to constantly update the annual reports, not only on their website, but also in the medical library. They can also get a large fund contribution than before if they take advantage of existing social sites such as Facebook, Instagram, and so on. For the threat, they may face copyright threat if the medical library is less concerned with the production of researchers' work. In conclusion, the Boston Children's Institution Archive houses thousands of papers, photographs, and artifacts. The Boston Children's Hospital Archive documents the hospital's activities and accomplishments. Thousands of items were acquired by the hospital over the course of the years. Some of these artifacts have been returned to the hospital. That's all from us. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.